Okay, well, for the CLL Society, I'm Alan Skarbnik. I'm a CLL physician. I'm the director of the Lymphoma CLL program at Novant Health Cancer Institute in North Carolina. I'm joined today by Dr. Collier-Bain from England, who has a very, very interesting study on the effects of exercise on the efficacy of rituximab. So it was an abstract presented at ASH in 2023. The number is 1179, and I'll read the title. Is a single bout of exercise enhances the efficacy of rituximab against autologous chronic lymphocytic leukemia B cells ex vivo by transiently increasing natural killer cell frequency in blood and simultaneously mobilizes CD5 positive, CD19 positive, CD20 positive B cells into blood. Quite a mouthful of a title. Dr. Collier-Bain, please introduce yourself and tell us about your research, what is entailed.
Okay, well, thanks for having me on, and thanks for offering me the opportunity to talk about my research. So as you mentioned, I'm Dr. Collier-Bain, and yeah, I've just finished my PhD in exercise and cancer immunology at University of Bath in England, and I'm currently transitioning into a postdoctoral role where I hope to sort of continue on with this research. So I guess a little bit about the research and sort of how we kind of got it to where it was. So for probably over 100 years now, we've known that a single bout of moderate intense exercise, so if you imagine any exercise that's sort of going to increase your breathing rate, can increase the number of different types of immune cells in the bloodstream. And since the sort of advent of immunotherapy drugs, particularly rituximab, that's been used effective for the last sort of 20 years, these immunotherapies harness the body's own immune system and direct the immune system to kill cancer cells in the body. Immunotherapies like rituximab, one of their primary mechanisms uses the immune cell natural killer cells, which are also the immune cells that are most profoundly increased in the blood during a bout of moderate intense exercise. So it kind of felt like a no-brainer at that point. We thought, hey, in healthy individuals, we're seeing this massive increase in natural killer cells, and this cancer immunotherapy uses these natural killer cells. So maybe we can sort of combine the two and see if exercise can improve the way that these drugs work. And that's what sort of led us to this research and allowed us to complete the study.
All right. So what were your findings on the study?
So findings were very positive. So the participants that we recruited, should note they were all sort of physically healthy, and we screened them with cardiologists at our local collaborating hospital, the Royal United Hospital Bath. And these participants came in, cycled for about 30 minutes at this moderate intensity, and then we collected the blood samples before exercise and immediately after exercise, so within 3 minutes once they finished. And we saw significant increase in the number of natural killer cells. So these increased by over 100% in response to exercise. And then what we did was we isolated these natural killer cells as well as some of our participants' CLL cells, and we incubated them in our laboratory with rituximab. And we showed that there was I think it was about a 67% increase in the effectiveness of rituximab against CLL cells.
Specifically via the antibody-dependent cell cytotoxicity mechanism. Is that correct?
Yes. So to make sure we were looking...
Sorry?
Oh, I was going to say, yeah, to make sure we were looking at that particular mechanism, that's why we isolated and purified the natural killer cells from our participants. And then we also used some different blocking antibodies so that we could confirm that it was the natural killer cells that were responsible for the killing of the CLL cells, as opposed to any other sort of confounding variables within the experiment.
So you were able to block the complement-dependent cytotoxicity in that experiment, right?
Yes. So with this one, we removed the participants' serum out of the equation.
Great. I mean, so those are great findings. So did you all test obinutuzumab as well? Because my question here is, this is very interesting, perhaps even going beyond CLL. But clinically, particularly in CLL, obinutuzumab is a better antibody, largely because it has a much higher ADCC potency because of the glucose moiety that's removed from the FC are part of the molecule. So it would be interesting to see if that also affects that in an antibody that has a baseline more higher potency there. Is that something you guys are looking into?
Yes, yeah. So it's something we'd like to research. If we were sort of like take this study further. We sort of imagine that the results will be similar, but like you said, it's got a higher sort of baseline potency. So we might expect the baseline values to be higher, but maybe the change from before exercise and after exercise might be similar. Because like what you mentioned about, this being across other cancers potentially as well. We have also completed another study which recruited patients with smoldering multiple myeloma. And in that study, we tested the effects of exercise on daratumumab, which is another immunotherapy used to treat myeloma, which targets a different protein. And in that study, we still saw significant effects pre to post exercise. So it seems that exercise improves at least these types of immunotherapies.
That's fascinating. That's really fascinating. So, but this is all done ex vivo. Is there any plan to look into in vivo if that effect translates in vivo of patients without the
Yes.
and everything? So.
Yes, yeah, definitely. So as you know, and as anyone sort of seeing or reading this research can tell, this was a pilot study, and we kind of wanted to show proof of concept at this point because no one's really investigated the immunomodulatory effects of exercise in people with cancer. So we got some really neat preliminary evidence from this, and the next plan is to write a grant for a bigger randomized control trial that will recruit patients that are actually being treated with these different immunotherapies. Because in this study, we used treatment naive patients, so those patients with CLL who haven't experienced any symptoms yet, and that was mainly so that we could control for confounding variables such as treatment side effects and things like that.
All right. Do you think it's time for us to start building cycling units in our infusion centers?
I hope so. I hope that's going to be the end goal. Obviously, we can't say too much with certainty now, as there's only pilot data. And yeah, I should stress, that these participants recruited were relatively fit and were healthy, and the screening that they went through was pretty rigorous because it was a pilot clinical trial. So yeah, it'd be really interesting to see whether these results can be observed across a range of different people with CLL, because the hope is that this will be able to help everyone, but we need to do some more randomized control trials to confirm that.
That's great. Really, really interesting. Thank you for sharing with us and explaining the rationale, and very much looking forward to future results with other populations and in vivo. This is very, very cool.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Of course, we appreciate your participation, and keep us posted.